Mothman, with its multifaceted nature, stands as a mirror to humanity's intrinsic need to explain the unexplained. Whether it's a genuine cryptid, a figment of collective imagination, or something more profound, the Mothman's legacy endures. As new sightings emerge and as science advances, one can't help but wonder if we'll ever truly understand the depths of this enigma. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, became the epicenter of a phenomenon in the 1960s, a phenomenon that transformed a small town's narrative and imprinted itself on the broader psyche of paranormal enthusiasts around the world. Amid the landscape of America's enigmatic legends, Mothman stands as a sentinel of the unknown. Mothman is typically described as a winged, man-sized creature with large reflective or glowing red eyes. It is often said to be around 7 feet tall, with a wingspan of about 10 to 15 feet or more. The 1960s wasn't just an era of free love, civil rights, and moon landings. It was a time rife with reports of the unexplained. UFO sightings were becoming mainstream news. Bigfoot was making headlines. And amidst this backdrop, the Mothman emerged. While definitely lesser known than the Point Pleasant encounter, which we'll get into in just a minute, the Clendenin sighting is probably technically the first modern Mothman sighting reported. The event took place on November 12, 1966, just a few days before Point Pleasant. It occurred near Clendenin, West Virginia. 5 men were working in a cemetery near Clendenin, digging a grave. Given the nature of their task and the setting, the men were already in a somber mood, unprepared for the strange occurrence that would soon take place. As they worked, the men suddenly noticed something peculiar. From the tree line, a large figure lifted off the ground. Unlike any bird they had ever seen, the creature was more man-like in its appearance, hence the eventual moniker, Mothman. This humanoid creature was said to have flown directly over their heads, causing understandable astonishment and fear among the group. The men later described it as being large and winged. It didn't seem to be a bird or any other recognizable animal. Its sudden appearance and the swift, silent manner in which it flew were particularly unsettling. Though they were understandably shaken by the event, the gravediggers discussed the sightings among themselves. Was it a bird? Was it something supernatural like an apparition? Or was it something else entirely? The unique nature of their sighting, happening in a cemetery, added an extra layer of eeriness to their speculations. The men were convinced that whatever they saw was not an ordinary animal or bird. Now, the Clendenin sighting didn't immediately gain the media attention that the Point Pleasant encounter did a few days later. However, once the Mothman report started flooding in and interest in the creature began to mount, the event was retroactively recognized as possibly the first modern sighting of the Mothman. When pieced together with subsequent accounts, the Clendenin event helped paint a picture of a creature that was both ominous and elusive, consistently evoking a mixture of fear and curiosity in those who claimed to have seen it. While the gravediggers near Clendenin were possibly the first to report a Mothman, the testimony of 2 young couples near an old TNT factory just outside of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, became the Mothman's quintessential narrative. It occurred on the evening of November 15, 1966. The location was a desolate area outside the TNT plant. an abandoned World War II munitions site near Point Pleasant. The site was comprised of several old buildings, dense woods, and the McClintock Wildlife Management Area, making it a popular spot for local teenagers to hang out, but also a place rife with rumors of odd occurrences, even before the Mothman reports. On that particular evening, two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallette, were driving around the area. All four would soon become the first known witnesses to the creature that would go on to be dubbed the Mothman. While in the car, the group spotted two red, glowing eyes reflecting their headlights amidst the darkness. Upon focusing on the source, they were startled to see a large, gray creature standing approximately 7 feet tall with its wings folded against its back. Linda Scarberry later described its eyes as hypnotic. As the fear took over, Roger Scarberry, who was driving, decided to leave the area quickly. However, as they sped away, they were horrified to find the creature was in pursuit. It glided effortlessly above the car, keeping pace even as the vehicle reached speeds of over 60 miles per hour. The group reported the creature's eerie flight was devoid of the flapping one would expect from a bird, and it added to the surreal nature of the chase. They finally reached Point Pleasant and informed the local sheriff of the encounter. Though initially skeptical, Sheriff George Johnson and Deputy Miller Halstead could not dismiss the palpable fear and consistency in the accounts given by the two couples. Their recounting vivid descriptions of a winged creature possessing hypnotic, red, burning eyes would set the standard for future accounts. The story quickly made its way to local newspapers. As the media latched onto the tale, the witnesses found themselves at the center of a media frenzy. Their lives were suddenly thrust into the spotlight, bringing both intrigue and skepticism. Roger Scarberry was often quoted in these reports, which further cemented his association with the Mothman legend. The encounter had a profound impact on Linda Scarberry as well. In various interviews over the years, she recounted sleepless nights, a sense of ongoing dread, and even further mysterious sightings. Her fear was palpable, and she frequently spoke of the red-eyed creature's hypnotic gaze. Roger and Linda Scarberry eventually separated, and while it's unclear how much the Mothman event played a role in their personal lives, the incident remained a defining moment for them. Linda passed away in 2011, but until her death, she maintained the authenticity of her account, asserting that what they saw was neither a bird nor any other unexplained creature. Roger and Linda's daughter, Tanya Scarberry, has occasionally spoken out about her parents' encounter, emphasizing the profound effect it had on her family. She's been involved in Mothman festivals and events in Point Pleasant, ensuring that their story continues to be shared with future generations. The Silver Bridge was an I-bar chain suspension bridge that connected the towns of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio, over the Ohio River. Built in 1928, the bridge was notable for its unique construction using I-bars rather than cables, and it was a vital transportation link for both towns. On the chilly afternoon of December 15, 1967, during rush hour, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge suddenly and unexpectedly collapsed into the Ohio River. Vehicles and pedestrians were plunged into the frigid waters below. The catastrophe resulted in the deaths of 46 people. Several others were injured, and many were traumatized by the event. Some bodies were never recovered from the river, adding to the anguish of the affected families. This tragedy has a unique place in American folklore due to its association with the Mothman legend. In the months leading up to the disaster, numerous sightings of a strange winged creature, later dubbed the Mothman, were reported in and around Point Pleasant. Some locals and paranormal enthusiasts speculated that the Mothman sightings were a harbinger or an omen of the upcoming tragedy. This connection was popularized by John Keel's 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, which explored both the Mothman sightings and the bridge collapse. Keel suggested that the two events might be related in some mysterious way. In 2002, The Mothman Prophecies, a film adaptation of Keel's book starring Richard Gere, further cemented the link between the Mothman and the Silver Bridge disaster in popular culture. To this day, the Mothman legend and the Silver Bridge collapse remain intertwined in the public's imagination, adding a layer of supernatural intrigue to the already tragic event. Some even believed the Mothman to be directly responsible. While the Silver Bridge disaster left a somber mark, the town has evolved. The Mothman Museum, established by Jeff Wamsley, stands as a testament to the legend's impact. It houses a comprehensive collection of artifacts, news clippings, and witness statements. The Mothman Festival, inaugurated in the early 2000s, attracts global attention. Keynote speakers range from paranormal experts to first-hand witnesses. It's a blend of celebration, remembrance, and intrigue. There have been many more recent sightings that have been reported in various places, some reaching considerable media attention. Arguably the most publicized set of modern Mothman encounters occurred in and around Chicago throughout 2017. The reports began in early 2017 and continued for several months, with over 50 alleged sightings by the end of the year. Descriptions were eerily similar to previous Mothman accounts: a large winged creature, often with glowing or reflective eyes. Some witnesses likened it to a giant bat, while others maintained that it was something entirely unknown. The sheer number of reports in such a condensed time frame led to widespread media coverage and drew the attention of cryptozoologists and paranormal researchers. Sightings in the Mothman's hometown, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, have continued sporadically through the years, albeit less frequently than during the 1966-67 flap. Some have suggested that modern sightings are influenced by the town's embrace of the legend, including its annual Mothman Festival, the Mothman Museum, and various statues and murals depicting the creature. Nevertheless, some residents claim to have had genuine encounters, describing a creature consistent with earlier reports. There have also been rumors and stories suggesting that a Mothman-like creature was seen near Chernobyl before the 1986 nuclear disaster, and later near Fukushima before the 2011 nuclear accident. Similar to the claims about Chernobyl and Fukushima, there have been sporadic reports of Mothman-like entities in war zones or regions that subsequently experienced a significant disaster. They contribute to the narrative of the Mothman as an omen of impending doom. It's worth noting that with any phenomena like the Mothman, the line between genuine encounters, misidentification, hoaxes, and group psychology can get blurred. Whether one believes the Mothman is a genuine creature, a case of mass hysteria, or something else entirely, its enduring presence in culture ensures that the sightings and reports will likely continue for the foreseeable future. The legend and lore surrounding the Mothman have given rise to numerous theories about what it could be. Some believe that the Mothman is a supernatural entity that appears as a warning before disasters. This theory was popularized due to the Silver Bridge collapse in Point Pleasant, which followed a year of frequent Mothman sightings. The idea is that the creature was trying to warn the townspeople. John Keel, author of the Mothman Prophecies, proposed that the Mothman might be an entity from another dimension that can occasionally manifest in our reality. Keel's theories often intertwine various paranormal phenomena, suggesting connections between them. Given that some Mothman sightings in the 1960s coincided with UFO reports in the Point Pleasant area, some ufologists have suggested that the Mothman might be an alien entity or somehow related to extraterrestrial visitors. Perhaps it was sent to Earth for reconnaissance or observation. Its humanoid yet distinctively non-human appearance could suggest an evolutionary path from a different planet. Another theory postulates that while Mothman might not be an extraterrestrial itself, it could be a biological entity engineered and released by extraterrestrials to study human behavior, reactions, or the Earth's environment. Adding another layer of mystery, several witnesses to both Mothman and UFOs reported encounters with the enigmatic Men in Black, individuals who, dressed in black suits, would intimidate or warn witnesses against discussing their experiences. Their motives remain unclear, but their appearances further fueled the speculation that the Mothman sightings and UFO occurrences were intrinsically linked. While many found the extraterrestrial theories intriguing, skeptics argued for more grounded explanations. The heightened media attention and ensuing public interest could have led to a surge in reported sightings. The psychological effects of fear, curiosity, and the human tendency to seek patterns might have inadvertently linked the two separate phenomena. As Mothman hysteria began to reach its zenith, Dr. Robert L. Smith stepped forward with a voice of reason. Drawing from his ornithological expertise, he suggested that the Mothman might merely be a sandhill crane, lost from its flock or straying from its typical migratory route. The sandhill crane is a tall, stately bird with a wingspan that can reach up to 7 feet, primarily gray with a distinctive red crown on its head. These birds migrate in large numbers, usually flying in great V-shaped formations. While they're not common to places like West Virginia, there have been sightings of these creatures during their migratory patterns. The bird, unaccustomed to human interaction in such a setting, might have exhibited aggressive or protective behavior, especially if it felt cornered or threatened. While Dr. Smith's explanation provided a more logical counter to the wilder theories, many were not convinced. Several reasons fueled this skepticism. Even though the sandhill cranes are large birds, the description provided by eyewitnesses often portray a creature of a much more massive and intimidating size than a crane. A reoccurring detail in most Mothman encounters were the glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness with an otherworldly luminance. This detail doesn't match the crane's physical attributes. While sandhill cranes can be aggressive if threatened, the accounts of the Mothman often depict behaviors that go beyond the defensive actions of a bird. Tales of the creature chasing cars at high speeds or appearing suddenly only to vanish are not congruent with crane behaviors. Witnesses often recounted seeing a humanoid creature with wings attached to its back, not a bird. The Mothman's wings, as per many descriptions, appear more bat-like than bird-like. While the sandhill crane theory offers a slice of rationality in an otherwise perplexing puzzle, it can't entirely dispel the aura of mystery surrounding the Mothman. There are just too many accounts, the descriptions too consistent in their anomalies. Dr. Smith's theory, though grounded in science, became just one of many in the vast tapestry of Mothman lore. For many residents of Point Pleasant and numerous researchers who've since delved into the mystery, the enigma remains unsolved, with the crane explanation being an intriguing but incomplete piece of the puzzle. As Mothman accounts surged, skeptics pointed towards the psychological phenomena of mass hysteria. Before delving into its potential relationship with the Mothman, it's essential to understand what mass hysteria is. It's a socio-psychological phenomenon where delusions or excitabilities often spurred by fear or rumors, spread uncontrollably within a community. Symptoms can range from fainting, nausea, and anxiety to full-blown panic attacks. Historically, the world has witnessed multiple instances, from the dancing plagues of the Middle Ages to modern-day scares about perceived threats. When a community faces something inexplicable, the fear of the unknown can act as a powerful catalyst. The Mothman, with its eerily glowing eyes and purportedly threatening demeanor, provided that spark for Point Pleasant. As more residents came forward with their accounts, even those who hadn't directly encountered the creature began to experience heightened anxiety and dread. Amidst this chaos, Dr. Jane Richardson, a local therapist, began to document a concerning pattern. Her daily appointments started filling up with townsfolk, not discussing family issues or personal anxieties, but expressing an acute fear of the Mothman. They reported sleepless nights, panic attacks, and an ever-present feeling of being watched. Dr. Richardson theorized that even if the initial sightings were genuine, the subsequent wave might have been influenced heavily by the town's collective anxiety. The sheer volume of conversations about the Mothman could have affected the subconscious of many, making them interpret unusual events as supernatural encounters. A rustling in the woods, shadows and peripheral vision, or even the ordinary hoot of an owl could transform into a terrifying Mothman experience in the heightened state of collective alarm. Another critical factor in understanding the potential role of mass hysteria in the Mothman phenomena is the human propensity for storytelling and confirmation bias. As stories of the Mothman encounters spread, they often get embellished in the retelling, becoming more dramatic and terrifying. Each new version added fuel to the growing fire of town-wide apprehension. Simultaneously, confirmation bias, the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information that confirms one's own preconceptions, meant that any unusual event could immediately be attributed to the Mothman. A knocked-over trash can wasn't the work of a raccoon, but instead the elusive creature prowling the neighborhood. While it's impossible to conclusively state that mass hysteria was a driver behind the Mothman accounts, its influence on the surge in sightings is undeniable. The interplay between genuine encounters and the psychological effects of fear, rumor, and community-wide anxiety created a potent mix that kept Point Pleasant in its grip for a significant period. Dr. Richardson's observations serve as a compelling reminder of the power of collective belief and the lines where reality blurs with perception, especially when faced with the inexplicable.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
The 1960s, marked by its civil rights movements, the Vietnam War, and the space race, was also a decade that bore witness to a rising number of UFO sightings and alleged encounters with extraterrestrial beings. Within this cauldron of societal changes and the tantalizing unknown, the Mothman phenomenon emerged, weaving together elements of folklore, genuine fear, and the extraterrestrial enigma. The latter half of the 20th century, particularly the 1960s, saw a meteoric rise in reports of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, or UAPs as they're known today. These weren't isolated incidents. They spanned across continents, with notable cases like the Betty and Barney Hill abduction story and the famous incident in Roswell, New Mexico from the previous decade, setting the stage for public intrigue. This widespread interest was further amplified by the space race, as the quest for the stars brought both excitement and trepidation about what might lie beyond our planet. Amidst this backdrop, Point Pleasant's Mothman encounters introduced an additional layer of complexity. Not long after the first reported Mothman sightings, another puzzling narrative began to emerge. Could it be possible that the Mothman wasn't just a creature of local folklore or a misidentified animal, but was in fact an entity of extraterrestrial origin? Some ufologists posited that the Mothman might be an extraterrestrial scout or a form of non-human intelligence sent to observe, study, or perhaps even interact with humanity. Drawing parallels with global reports of humanoid creatures sighted in proximity to UFO events, it suggested that the Mothman was part of a larger phenomenon, where beings from other worlds were actively engaging with Earth. Further substantiating these claims, ufologists documented several instances where Mothman sightings were accompanied by unexplained aerial lights or distinct UFOs. For many, these coincidences were too numerous to ignore. Moreover, the alleged visits by the Men in Black were eerily similar to other global reports where UFO witnesses were warned against public disclosure. While the extraterrestrial hypothesis is but one of many theories surrounding the Mothman phenomenon, the 1960s setting, rich with UFO sightings and increased public belief in otherworldly visitors, made it a compelling perspective. The tales of Mothman, with its fearsome wings and eerie glowing eyes, may seem like a phenomenon unique to the late 20th century. However, when one delves deep into the annals of history and examines the myths and legends of various civilizations, it becomes evident that similar entities have haunted human imagination for millennia. The ancient Egyptian civilization, with its pantheon of deities, revered the god Horus, often depicted as a falcon or a man with the head of a falcon. The associations of divinity with bird-like characteristics is noteworthy when exploring the parallels with Mothman. Horus was not merely a representation of a bird, but it symbolized the sky, war, and protection. His eyes, according to the myths, were the sun and moon. The eye of Horus itself became an iconic symbol of protection, royal power, and good health. This visual emphasis on the eyes and the frequent artistic depictions of the Horus with wide, outstretched wings might find distinct echoes in the descriptions of the Mothman's glowing eyes and large wingspan. However, while Horus was worshipped and revered, the Mothman, on the other hand, instilled fear and was considered a harbinger of doom. The divergence showcases how similar symbols can take on different connotations based on cultural context and historical periods. Moving across the globe and into the vast landscapes of North America, the indigenous peoples had their own legends of giant winged creatures, the Thunderbirds. These were not mere birds, but powerful spirits, often believed to control the elements of thunder and lightning. Stories of the Thunderbirds can be found across various tribes, from the Algonquin people of the Great Lakes to the tribes of the Pacific Northwest. For some, these creatures were protectors fighting off evil spirits. For others, the flap of a Thunderbird's wings signaled an incoming storm or significant event. Their appearance was considered an omen, sometimes of favor and other times of impending doom. The connection between Thunderbirds and Mothman is particularly striking when considering the reports that linked the Mothman sightings with the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967. Both entities, separated by time and culture, seem to act as harbingers, their appearances intertwined with significant events. Whether it's the stately Horus watching over ancient Egypt or the majestic Thunderbird signaling change in Native American tales, The image of powerful winged entities is a reoccurring motif in human history. These legends, arising from diverse cultures and eras, perhaps point towards a shared human tendency to attribute unexplained events or phenomena to powerful, often airborne entities. The Mothman, in this broader context, might be seen not just as a unique event in 1960s America, but as a part of a long lineage of human stories, myths, and attempts to make sense of the unexplained. Such parallels remind us that while cultures, times, and names might change, some archetypes remain deeply ingrained, reflecting universal fears, curiosities, and the ever-present need to understand the unknown. While delving into paranormal literature, certain works rise to prominence for their detailed accounts, depth of research, and narrative appeal. John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies stands as one such seminal work. The book, which thoroughly examined the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, achieved not only acclaim in literature, but also inspired a foray into film, further propelling the legend into the mainstream consciousness. Keel's meticulous approach set the Mothman Prophecies apart from typical paranormal fare. He traveled to Point Pleasant, where he interviewed witnesses firsthand, corroborating stories and gathering detailed testimonies. This wasn't just a compilation of spooky tales. It was an investigative deep dive. Keel chronicled the emotional upheaval in the community, detailing the fear, skepticism, and societal changes that rippled through the town in the wake of the sightings. Beyond the basic accounts of Mothman encounters, Keel ventured into the more esoteric realms of the unknown. He touched upon the ancillary phenomena known as the enigmatic men in black. Keel also speculated on topics like interdimensional beings and UFOs, suggesting that Point Pleasant might have been a hotspot for otherworldly activities during the period. In 2002, the allure of Keel's investigations took a cinematic turn with the release of The Mothman Prophecies, a film starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney, directed by Mark Pellington. The movie was loosely based on Keel's book, blending elements of the real-life events and fictional constructs for dramatic appeal. The film delves into a journalist's unexpected journey into the world of the Mothman after his wife's tragic accident. As he unravels the mysteries surrounding the entity, he encounters a series of inexplicable events that mirror the unease and tension found in Keel's original work. The movie, while taking artistic liberties, succeeds in capturing the eerie atmosphere and pervasive sense of foreboding that Keel described in his book. It also introduced the Mothman legend to a wider audience, many of whom were unaware of the real-life events that inspired the film. In both forms, The Mothman Prophecies prompts introspection, pushing readers and viewers alike to ponder the vastness of the uncharted territories of our reality and to question the nature of what we perceive as truth. Through Keel's investigations and the film's haunting narrative, the Mothman legend transcends its local origins, becoming a global symbol of the enigmatic mysteries that exist just beyond our grasp. One of the most captivating aspects of the Mothman legend is its potential universality. While Point Pleasant, West Virginia remains the epicenter of the Mothman phenomena, similar legends and sightings from around the globe suggest that this eerie entity might not be a localized tale, but a global enigma. The sleepy town of Monnan, Cornwall, was jolted into the limelight in the 1970s when reports emerged of a strange, owl-like creature haunting the churchyard. Dubbed the Owlman, this entity shared numerous characteristics with the Mothman, from its large reflective eyes to its humanoid shape paired with bird-like features. Multiple sightings have occurred over the years. For instance, in April 1976, 2 young girls claimed to have seen a massive owl hovering over the church tower. Later sightings described the creature as being silver gray, much larger than a regular owl. The proximity of these sightings to the coast led to speculations ranging from undiscovered species of large birds affected by pollution to the idea of an alien entity. The Owlman of Cornwall, though not as widely reported as its American counterpart, sparked similar debates about its origin, nature, and intentions. Eastern folklore is replete with tales of dragons and other supernatural entities, but Japan's man-dragon offers an especially intriguing parallel to the Mothman. Described in some accounts as a humanoid figure with reptilian or avian bird-like features, the man-dragon is believed to be a harbinger of change, both good and bad. There are ancient scrolls and texts that refer to such a creature, often appearing before significant events. Some scholars suggest that these could be exaggerations or misrepresentations of actual wildlife. However, eyewitness accounts, especially from rural areas, paint a picture of a creature that's undeniably Mothman-esque in its demeanor and impact on the local populace. The Mothman, contrary to some beliefs, didn't vanish after the 1960s. In the 21st century, with its plethora of communication means and the rise of the internet, has given voice to numerous new sightings, some in the most unexpected places. Among the echoing sounds of gunfire and grim reality of war, soldiers from various nationalities have whispered tales of a shadowy figure watching them from a distance. In the mountains of Afghanistan and the deserts of Iraq, accounts have surfaced of a Mothman-like entity. One particularly haunting report comes from a group of U.S. soldiers in 2003 described seeing a winged, human-sized figure perched atop a mountain ridge. The entity, they claimed, watched them for several minutes before taking off into the night, its glowing eyes leaving a lasting impression on the traumatized soldiers. These sightings have often been dismissed as stress-induced hallucinations, but the consistency in descriptions, coupled with similar accounts from local residents, add layers of mystery. Some cultural anthropologists suggest that the Mothman or entities like it might be symbols of impending doom or change, and their appearances in war zones could be indicative of widespread devastation. Asia, with its rich tapestry of myths and legends, has not been immune to Mothman sightings, especially in the wake of large-scale natural calamities. Following the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, several coastal villages in Indonesia and Thailand reported sighting a tall, winged figure flying overhead. Similarly, in the days leading up to the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan, locals and even some tourists in the affected areas claimed to have seen a Mothman-like creature. Described as having large wings and red eyes, this entity was often seen near the coastline, watching silently. These reports have led to multiple interpretations. Some believe that the Mothman-type entities are omens, warning of impending disasters. Others argue that the trauma of experiencing such calamities can lead to mass hallucinations or misrepresentations of natural phenomena. The legend of the Mothman is a rich tapestry of eyewitness testimonies and anecdotes, and while the most famous sightings are well documented, there are plenty of less publicized accounts that add depth to the mystery. So let's explore some of the lesser-known Mothman sightings. Just days after the Point Pleasant encounter on November 16, 1966, Marcella Bennett visited the home of her brother, Raymond Wormsley. As she was leaving, she reportedly saw a figure with glowing red eyes beside her car. Terrified, she dropped her daughter, who she was carrying, and then picked her up and ran into the house. The family was so scared by the creature they saw, which they claimed had wings, and was trying to get into the house, that they called the police. On the night of November 15, 1966, Newell Partridge was at his home in Salem, West Virginia, when his television began to act up, showing strange patterns and emitting an odd sound. His dog Bandit began barking and ran outside into the yard. Partridge went out with a flashlight and reportedly saw two red eyes resembling bike reflectors. He chose not to shoot at it. The next day, Bandit disappeared and was never seen again. On the morning of November 25, 1966, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia again, Tom Uri was driving north on Route 62 near the TNT area when he saw a tall figure standing by a field by the road. As he approached, the creature spread its wings and took off, flying over his car and heading towards the TNT area. In 1967, an anonymous man reported to the sheriff that he saw the Mothman flying through the trees while he was driving. It flew down and raced his car as he approached the infamous Dead Man's Curve. These are just a few of the myriad reports of the Mothman. Many witnesses did not come forward for fear of ridicule, while others have faded from memory. It's also worth noting that there have been sporadic reports of similar creatures both before and after this period, not just in West Virginia, but in other parts of the world. Whether these sightings are of the same entity, misidentifications of known animals, or something else entirely is a mystery that endures to this day. Belief in unexplained phenomena, such as the Mothman, is rooted in a complex interplay of cultural, psychological, social, and even personal factors. The Mothman legend has some firmly believing in its existence, and others expressing staunch skepticism. The question remains, why do some choose to believe in the Mothman while others do not? Delving into the intricacies of belief systems, cognitive biases, and the human propensity for storytelling might offer some insight. Every society has its own myths, legends, and supernatural tales passed down through generations. These stories often reflect societal fears, aspirations, or moral lessons. The Mothman, with its eerie, ominous presence, taps into the universal human fear of the unknown. The tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967, which some have linked to Mothman sightings, further entrenched the creature in local lore as a harbinger of doom. Humans are hardwired to recognize patterns, a trait that has historically kept us safe. This can lead to pareidolia, where one perceives a distinct pattern or meaning, such as a face or figure where none exists. When faced with ambiguous stimuli, like a shadowy figure in the dark, our brain might interpret it as something familiar from stories or local legends, like the Mothman. In some cases, belief in the supernatural or paranormal can be a coping mechanism. For those affected by the Silver Bridge tragedy, attributing it to a supernatural omen might be a way to make sense of a senseless event. Others find comfort or excitement in the idea of a world filled with mysteries and wonder beyond mundane understanding. For those who claim to have witnessed the Mothman or experienced related phenomenon firsthand, belief is rooted in personal experience. These eyewitness accounts, often vivid and emotional, can be more convincing to the individual than any amount of scientific or skeptical rebuttal. On the other side of the spectrum, skeptics often demand empirical evidence. In the absence of clear, verifiable proof, they might attribute Mothman sightings to more mundane explanations like misidentified birds, optical illusions, or even hoaxes. For these individuals, a reliance on the scientific method and empirical data shapes their worldview. In an increasingly rational and explained world, mysteries like the Mothman offer an escape. They provide a sense of wonder, a feeling that not everything has been discovered or understood. The need for mystery and a touch of the unexplained can drive belief in legends and cryptids. Belief or skepticism can also hinge on trust. Those who trust the integrity of the eyewitnesses might lean towards belief, while others who trust scientific institutions and their methodologies might remain skeptical. While skeptics often demand evidence, some approach the Mothman legend with intellectual curiosity. Those individuals might not firmly believe in Mothman, but remain open to its possibility, often seeking more information and reveling in the exploration of the unknown. The choice to believe or disbelieve in legends like the Mothman is deeply personal, shaped by a myriad of factors, ranging from cultural influences to individual experiences. What's undeniable is the power of such legends to captivate, whether one is a believer seeking to unravel the mysteries of the universe or a skeptic aiming to demystify them. The Mothman legend, with its rich tapestry of eyewitness accounts, media portrayals, and cultural significance, offers a compelling case in the complexities of human belief and the enduring allure of the unexplained. The Mothman, far from being a mere localized legend, seems to echo a universal human experience of fear. The sightings in varied locations worldwide, both ancient and contemporary, challenge the idea that such entities were mere figments of imagination. Instead, they might be deeply embedded symbols or manifestations of collective human anxieties, omens of change, or possibly entities beyond our current understanding. Whether viewed through the lens of folklore, psychology, or sheer curiosity, the Mothman and its global counterparts remain one of the most intriguing mysteries of our time, beckoning us to keep looking, keep questioning, and keep wondering about the unknown corners of our world.